Paul, you have got a new show on Gold, but it's a look back at 50 years plus of British sketches. And tell us about that, mate.
Yeah, well, you've just done it, really, Chris. No, it's a sort of decade-by-decade look at the history of the sketch show. Because, sadly, well, in my opinion, sadly, the sketch show really is not really with us anymore, not in the classic sense. So we look back at the origins of the sketch show, which came originally from the music hall, and then radio with Itmar, you know, can I do you now, sir, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you had the explosion then in the 70s of the more, I suppose, conventional sketch shows, you know, with Dick Emery and Benny Hill. And weirdly, I found the Dick Emery stuff, it actually made me laugh. And I don't know, I think it was just the endless repetition of, "Oh, you are awful, but I like you." And a catchphrase, a glorious thing, because it means you can impersonate your comic heroes the next day in the playground. And so we look at all the decades, you know, up until, I suppose, the last 10 years. Of course, we all watch comedy now on our phones.
We do, but we don't have that shared experience of it, though, do we? That we all had, you know, back in the 80s and the 90s, where it was just ubiquitous. Everybody knew the same catchphrases.
But we do to an extent, because we share it with all our friends and our WhatsApp groups, and you know, it's available now on your phone. But of course, that means that nobody's commissioning sketch shows anymore. Of course, they're expensive to make, you know, unlike chat shows, which are really cheap.
You commented on my suit there, Paul.
I like your suit. We were pondering whether it's jade or sage.
I'm the last person to ask.
I know. You've been no help at all.
They just stick me in it and do me up. So every episode covers a decade, 70s, 80s, 90s and noughties. But I'm guessing from what you're saying that the first episode about the 70s is your favourite episode of the lot, really.
Well, I think no, of course it's not. It's the 90s when I do all my stuff with Harry Enfield and the Fast Show. I found that first one, I suppose, the most interesting in a way, just to see that development. But the last decade was good. The noughties, I suppose, whatever we called it, because you had Catherine Tate, Little Britain, League of Gentlemen, Mitchell and Webb. You know, they were doing Peep Show, which was slightly edgy, and their sketch show was quite conventional. It was like the two Ronnies, you know. But I'm not criticising them, because it was actually a joy to go back and watch.
Yeah.
But it just seems that it got to that point and that was it. Bang, you know. And a lot of it was quite controversial. League of Gentlemen it's not strictly a sketch show, but it is sort of a cast of grotesques, isn't it? A lot of sketch characters are grotesque, aren't they?
Yeah. And it seems that some of the more recent stuff as well, like Little Britain, you know, and Catherine Tate, almost reverted back to, you know, the stuff in the 70s, where they're trying to you know, ride that line a little bit more, aren't they? Overstep it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of innuendo in the 70s, and we can be a bit sneery about it, but of course they weren't allowed to swear then. So, you know, that was the only way they could go, you know, do any sort of blue.
The more modern stuff was a little bit more on the nose.
It was. But yes, I mean, some of that stuff now is quite difficult to watch. Obviously from the 70s, because we go, oh, well, that's a bit politically incorrect now. It doesn't really fit with our agenda. But also, even stuff from the noughties, as you're saying, it was pretty hard-nosed stuff, you know, and deliberately shocking. So, I mean, it's been a fascinating thing to do, and I'm in total control of it. So, obviously, it's basically Harry Enfield and the Fast Show, that's it. Nobody else gets a look in.
And it's brilliant to see that as well, because I've watched all the 4 episodes, and first of all, it's a brilliant series as a kind of nostalgic, retrospective look at all of the sketches, but also just to get your take on it and what you like in sketch comedy, because you know, it was brilliant to see that we both think the same Monty Python sketch is the best Monty Python sketch, which is the argument sketch.
It's always been weirdly, I mean, it's hard to pick a favourite, isn't it?
Because it is, but it's the argument one, isn't it?
But I love it. Do you see what he done now?
I see what he
done, Donna?
I see what he did.
He's right on it, isn't he? Yeah. His first show and he's at it. Right in a cold face. Bang.
The thing is, there's probably loads of people at home that don't even know what the argument sketch is, so I urge you to look it up on YouTube, Monty Python argument sketch. But listen, when we're talking about catchphrases quickly, Paul, you're saying about repetition. Now, I have probably spent more of my youth quoting your catchphrases, you know, than brushing my teeth, probably. But what do you think makes a good catchphrase? When you come up with something, do you kind of feel like you think this is going to be a good catchphrase, or do you think you could probably get away with it? Like, if just the repetition is the important thing?
Well, it's an interesting point. And recently we did this celebration, like 30 years since the first Fast Show went out, and we tried this little experiment every night. Charlie would say, well, you can get a catchphrase out of anything. And he'd say, these chairs are an interesting green colour. Silence.
Yeah.
I'd get a laugh saying, that was terrible, Charlie. And then, but by the time we then introduced it about 3 or 4 times during the night, of course, you got the biggest laugh of the night.
Yeah.
And it is simply about that repetition and unexpected lobbing in of, these chairs are a really nice shade of green, aren't they?
And you've conditioned them to laugh at it.
Yeah,
really,
and I'll try it later and we're all going to laugh, aren't we?